Okay, question 1. Ken and Pat had an equal amount of money at first. Each day, Ken spends $80 and Pat spends $55. When Ken had spent all his money, Pat still had $300 left. How much money did each of them have at first? Okay, so what we need to do is, let's start with the first information, right? Sentence number 1. At the beginning, we have Ken and then we have Pat. They each had the same amount of money. So let's draw out the model. Okay, Ken and Pat had the same amount of money. What happens after that? One day after, okay? One day after, Ken spent $80 over here, probably this, $80, and we will have Pat who spent 55. Now think about it. What happens to their difference? At the beginning, what is the difference between them? 0, because they had an equal amount. But one day after, because in the difference of their spending, alright, this $25 will be the gap. Okay, so let me erase it. After one day, this $80 is gone, and this $55 is gone. $55 is gone. And what would be the difference? $25. Now you think about it. If this pattern repeats, which it will, alright, Ken continue to spend $80 and Pat continue to spend $25. What will happen to the gap? It would increase by a fixed amount, isn't it? And what is that fixed amount? $25. So after day 1, the difference is 25. Day 2, the difference is $50. Day 3, $75. At which point in time will Ken spend all his money and Pat will have $300 left? Which means this gap here, the gap needs to increase 25, 25, 25, 25 until Pat has $300 left. Or to put it another way, it will continue, the reduction will continue until Pat has $300 more than Ken. That is the day whereby Ken ran out of money. Alright, when their differences increase 25 a day until 300. So how many days is that? Let's calculate. Number of days Ken took to spend all his money. Remember, $25 a day. Alright, that is the gap. $25 gap is produced a day. How many days will it take to create a $300 gap between them? We just take 300 divided by 25. That will give you 12 days. It will take 12 exact days such that Ken would run out of money and Pat would still have $300 left. So next step, can we now work out how much money they each have at first, which is an equal amount, isn't it? So 12 days to spend all his money. So we can easily find the amount of money they have at first, isn't it? Just using Ken. Amount of money each of them had at first. Every day Ken spent $80 and he took 12 days to spend it. Therefore, the answer will be $960. Okay, let's move on to question 2. Question 2. In the quiz, 4 marks were awarded for each correct answer and 3 marks were deducted for each wrong answer. No marks were awarded or deducted for unanswered questions. The following table shows the result of 2 pupils. However, some coffee was spilled on the result slip such that one of the numbers cannot be seen. How many unanswered questions did Billy have? So this is the tiny coffee spill, and we are trying to figure out what is the number behind this spill. Let's focus on N. She has 0 unanswered questions, 25 wrong questions, and that gave her a total of 165 marks. Let's think about what will happen if, instead of having 25 wrong answers, she didn't get these 25 questions wrong. So what will be her total marks then? So our first step is total number of marks if N answered all questions correctly. So we start with 165. If she didn't get these 25 questions wrong, we will need to give her back the 3 marks that were deducted. Correct? So we're going to add back the 25 times 3, which is 75 marks. Not to forget, not only she wouldn't lose these 3 marks per question, and if she happens to get them correct, she will gain another 4 marks per question. So essentially, you are gaining 7 more marks per question. Instead of getting them wrong, you get it correct. So we need to add another 4 marks per question, and that will give us a total of 340 marks. Again, 340 marks will be the total marks if N answered all questions correctly. From here, we are going to figure out how many questions are there. So total number of questions. If 340 is the total marks when all questions are answered correctly and each of them will be awarded 4 marks, we're just going to take that and divide it by 4, which will give us 85. So there are 85 questions in total. Next, knowing this, we can start to figure out how many unanswered questions Billy has. Given that Billy had no wrong answer, this 168 marks got to come from the correct answers. So we're going to figure out number of questions Billy answered correctly. We are going to take 168 divided by 4, and that will give us 42. Let me zoom out a bit to give myself a bit more space. Okay. In order to figure out the number of unanswered questions Billy had, we know that there are 85 in total. He had no wrong answers, and he had 42 correct answers. The remaining questions will be the unanswered. So the final step, number of unanswered questions Billy had is equal to 85 minus 42, and that will give you the answer of 43. Question 3. A group of volunteers plan to make 45 bookmarks each for charity. 12 more volunteers joined in to help them. As a result, each volunteer needed to make only 18 bookmarks. How many bookmarks were made altogether? Therefore, the story goes, initially there's a group of people who wanted to make 45 bookmarks each. That means they probably decided among themselves there is a fixed number of bookmarks they want to do. Okay? After that, 12 more volunteers joined in to help them. As a result, each of them needed to make only 18. So think about it. At the beginning, alright, I do not know how many people there are at the beginning. That is something we need to figure out. However, we have each person 45, the second person 45, the third person also 45, so on and so forth. Okay, then there came to 12 more people. Suddenly, each of them just need to do 18, 18, 18, so on and so forth. Now look at this reduction. Each of them is reduced by how many bookmarks? From 45 to 18, that will be 27 minus 27 minus 27. You think about it. If they want to maintain the same fixed number of bookmarks in total, and each of them now has a 27 reduction, this 27, someone has to make them, right? Who are the ones that actually is gonna create this 27? Well, this 27 has to be created. They will just pass on all this extra work to the 12 more volunteers. So there we have the new volunteers. Okay, so this is the new volunteers. 1, 2, 3, okay, all the way to the 12. So let me do this. The first new volunteer, the second, the third, and then we have the 12 new volunteer. Each of them is going to do 18, 18, 18, 18 also, am I right? Now, all their bookmarks task, well, where do they come from? They have to come from all these 27, isn't it? All right, so all these initial volunteers, they're going to gather all the 27 bookmarks, and then they're going to pass on the workload to the 12 of them. Okay, so let me copy this whole thing, make it smaller to give me the space that I need to write down the working. Okay, let me erase everything. Okay, gonna move this back here. Okay, so let's figure out first how many bookmarks the new volunteers have to create. So step number 1, number of bookmarks made by the 12 new volunteers. Each of them has to do 18 at the end, isn't it? So it's 18 times 12. That will give you 180 plus 36. That will be 216. Again, to repeat, these 12 new volunteers in total, they have to give a combine of 216. Where do these 216 come from? They have to come from them, isn't it? The 27, the 27, the 27, that makes up the 216. Then from here, we can easily calculate how many volunteers were there at first, isn't it? We just take 216 divided by 27. We can figure out how many people are there actually to give away the 27 to make up the 216. So number of volunteers at first, 216 divided by 27, and that would be 8. There are 8 people at first. Each of them give away 27, such that there is 216. Next, to find the answer, number of bookmarks made altogether. Over here, there are 2 ways you can do it. Since the total number stays the same, isn't it? Regardless, we can just take the 8 people times 45, or we take the new number of people, which is 8 plus 12, 20 people times 18. You will still get the same answer. So I'm just going to use the 8 here. All right, 8 times 45, you will get 360, and that is the answer. Moving on to question 4. Okay, question 4. a few pupils took part in a competition. If one of them scored another 13 points, their average score would be 54 points. However, in another scenario, if one of them scored 3 points less, their average score would be 50 points. What is the total scores of the pupils in the competition? Before we start, you need to understand the concept of average. To put it simply, average is just a way to say what is the number each of them would have if they share it equally. The concept behind average is about sharing things equally. You can be sharing, in this case, it's sharing the points. Alright, so let's think from this scenario. Okay, I'm gonna highlight. Okay, here. Let's start from here. In this case, the highlighted case, every single pupil would have 50 points. Alright, because they share it equally, right? That's what average means. They share it equally. So 50 points for each of them, after one of them score 3 points less. So I'm going to draw it out again. So in this scenario, there are 50, and how many pupils are there? Do not know. That's why I'm going to find out 50. However, is there another scenario that they have given us? Yep, here. If one of them scored another 13 points, their average score would be 54. Now let's do the second scenario. Not only they didn't score 3 points less, they scored another 13 points. So in total, that would be an additional 16 points from here, isn't it? 50, 50, 50, 50 average. What if one of them, for example, this student, we're gonna plus 3, correct? And then another student, we're gonna plus 13. It doesn't matter who. It can be the same student plus 3 plus 13, but we just know that overall, there will be an increase of 16 points to be redistributed to everyone. Again, average is about distributing the things equally. So they score the 3 points, and on top of that, the 13 points also. What would be the new average? The new average should be 54. Over here, each of them will become 54, 54. So at this point, let me ask you, each of them gain an additional 4 points. Where do this additional 4 points come from? It must come from here, isn't it? It is because there is an additional 3 points and there's an additional 13 points. Therefore, they can take this 16 points and say, okay, guys, I have 16 more points now. Let's distribute to us equally. Again, I'm gonna make this smaller on one side and erase everything here to create space. Okay, moving back here, small and nice over here. Okay, based on what we have figured out, 16 extra points, when there are 16 extra points given, every single one gain 4 points. So these additional 4 points must come from here. So how many students are there in total? Okay, number of pupils there were, okay, past tense. We just need to take 3 plus the 13, that will be the additional 16 points, divided by 4. We will get 4 pupils. Okay, you think about it, does it make sense? If there are 4 people, okay, now I can change this. So we know that there are 4 of them. 50, 54, plus 4, plus 4, plus 4, plus 4, plus 16 points in total. This 16 points, it comes from here, right? Plus 3, plus 13, yep, it fits the story. So we are correct. Next. What is the total score of the pupils in the competition? You can do either case, all right? You can do either case. So let's take this, let's take this case. Total score of the pupils in the competition. Four of them, each of them score by 50. However, is that the actual scenario? No. This is the scenario whereby one of them scored 3 points less. So we need to add in the 3 points. And that will be 203. This is the actual score of everyone involved. All right.